Hi guys, today I'm working on the 1956 VW Beetle steering wheel. It's in pretty rough shape. It's got some chunks missing and some pretty deep cracks. This one here is going all the way through. Another one on this side. So we're going to have to dig those all out with a Dremel and get some epoxy in there. Some of these fine cracks around the edges are going to be okay. A lot of it's just in the paint, so we'll sand it down, and after we sand it, we'll see if there's any of these cracks going into the actual plastic or bakelite part of the wheel. We will grind those out at that time. So the first thing on the steering wheel is going to be blast the center out here. So when we grind this out, we can eliminate any media that got stuck in any of the cracks. And we have to get off the cancellation ring. This is for the turn signal. Cancels it when it comes back. Then the horn button's in rough shape too. It's cracked. Luckily I have the pieces for it. That usually happens when people pry these to get it out. They'll pry it and break the rim. So it's pretty common. I fixed a lot of them like that. So we'll epoxy those together. And the rest of the parts are okay, but I do need a center cap, so I'll just have to order one up or find one somewhere. So we'll start with the bead blasting of the hub. So it's all ground out now. All the big cracks are ground with the bigger bit. And then I went through some of these smaller ones, medium-sized cracks with the small bit. And I did put a little undercut on it so it'll lock the epoxy in. Once in a while, if you're not careful, use good products, you'll get shrink back and you'll start to see these after a while, especially on steering wheels because they're right in the sun all the time. So they get a lot of heat. This is the worst spot here. But we should be good to go. Okay, we're going to mix up some epoxy. This is what I use, this PC7. I found that this has the lowest shrink back out of any epoxy I've used. It has a nice consistency. It's not like a putty and it's not a liquid. It's right in between. So it really flows decent into the cracks and yet holds its shape. Doesn't flow like a liquid. So this is the best I found by far for a steering wheel. And then I just get a dental pick. So I use to fill a lot of these cracks. You really want to push it in there. This stuff really works well with just your fingers to soften it, spread it out. And you know, between that, the wooden sticks, and the dental pick, you can get it pretty good. You want to do as much as you can at this point because it's like a rock to sand. Okay, so it's the next day and it's all hardened up. This stuff takes pretty much overnight to dry. And you pretty much have to hand sand this. Can't really go at it with anything pneumatic or electric. It'll easily gouge into the original material, the plastic of the wheel. So it has to be carefully sanded. That's why you really want to put this epoxy down carefully. Do the best you can. The better you lay it down, the less you have to sand. So we'll start the sanding. All right, it's all set. Ready for epoxy primer. I'm going to put epoxy primer on it and sand that out, and then one more coat of epoxy, and then the finish coat. It's a lot of sanding. All right, so we have it in the first coat of epoxy here. It'll show you kind of the blemishes. A couple cracks. There's one over here. That'll need to be taken care of. And then another coat of epoxy and then the final paint. You gotta let this sit till tomorrow and then sand it out. Okay, we're back from the epoxy prime. I did 2 coats, sanded them out, and this is the 3rd coat, which is basically, I thinned it out a little bit more, so it's basically a sealer. So it's ready for the final coat, the top coat, which is a 2K urethane using PPG, just the Omni brand. So we'll go ahead and give this a final top coat. I put down one coat real light, let that tack up, and then you can put a little heavier second coat on. And that's pretty much all it'll take. So on to the painting. Okay, so there's the first coat done. I like to put it on pretty thin and let it tack up. This Omni paint really likes to run, so if I get a good first coat on there, get it good and tacky, I kind of let it sit about 10-15 minutes at least. I'll test it on the tape to see if it's tacky or not. And that kind of acts as a way to kind of grab a hold of the second coat so it doesn't run as easily. And I do add a little bit extra, about 10% extra hardener. And then we did the horn button too to match. So we'll let it sit and onto the second coat. All right, so we have the final coat on it. Looks pretty good. It flowed out really nice. A few specks in it, but it wasn't painted in a paint booth, so you're going to get a few dust specks. Now we just have to polish up the ring on the horn button, put that together, and see what it looks like on the car.